Breaking news today, Britain to lower voting age to 16 before the next national election. Government announces. Yeah, we didn't see this coming 20 miles away, did we? Legal cheating. This is basically cheating, isn't it? This is the same as the Democrats in the States, sending fat purple-haired activists round 200 elderly people's houses and saying, I'll take your vote in for your love. Legalise cheating. And and in fact, this is going to be a short video because it's so trivially easy to prove that the only reason they do this is because they think it'll help them rig the election. A child could do it. I mean, we knew it was coming. They've been talking about it for years because they're working off the data that suggests that young people are far more likely to vote left-wing. And in ages past, they certainly were. But it might not be the case now. It might not be the case now, and there's a ray of hope for us. So I'll go through the data, I'll show you 100% why we know this is a cynical plot by tyrannical cheaters, and I'll point out the strange hypocrisy in a tyrannical nanny state government that seems to always want to make it harder to buy alcohol or cigarettes or gamble or buy a knife. Simultaneously is only really interested in lowering the age on two different things. Yeah, you've guessed it. Voting and humming the national anthem with a BBC presenter's balls in your mouth. Right then, we all knew this was coming. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. I think I said on a live stream about 4 years ago, they're just going to lower the voting age. They're just going to cheat. And everybody who has two brain cells to rub together knows if they had a life crisis, you know, if your wife left you, you lost your job, you're having health problems, and you really needed a shoulder to cry on and some good advice, would you go and see your 62-year-old mother for advice, or would you talk to your 16-year-old niece? Answers on a postcard. Britain will lower the voting age from 18 to 16 by the next national election as part of measures to increase democratic participation, the government announced Thursday. The centre-left Labour Party pledged before it was elected to lower the voting age for elections to Britain's Parliament. Scotland and Wales already let 16 and 17-year-olds vote in local elections. Yeah, because Scotland and Wales are already led by out-communists. That's why. England was always more sensible. I've pointed this out before. England spent 14 years voting for a Conservative government. They weren't Conservative, but at least the name said Conservative. If there was any justice, every single imported fighting age men with a high sex drive and low impulse control in the last 14 years should have been sent directly to Wales and Scotland. And I know that's going to annoy my Scottish and Welsh viewers, but that's just the fact of it. The English have always had more sense than the Scottish and the Welsh when it comes to general elections, because they voted for out-commie parties like Plaid Cymru and the SNP, while we were voting for Conservatives and Boris Johnson with all these lofty promises. Turns out the Conservative Party's about as good at conservation as a pyromaniacal teenager with a box of Swan's Vestas and a gallon of petrol. But you know what I'm saying. Anyway, let's listen to the man himself, shall we? The liar-in-chief.
I think it's really important that 16 and 17-year-olds have the vote because they're old enough to go out to work. They're old enough to pay taxes, so to pay in. And I think if you pay in, you should have the opportunity to say what you want your money spent on, which way the government should go. So I'm really pleased that we're able to bring more young people into our democracy and give them the chance to have a say over how their taxes are going to be paid and what they're going to be used for.
So there we go, with a shit-eating grin as he delivers it, because he knows he's taking the piss. As for proving that it's a cynical ploy just to try and rig the election, I'll just cover two data points that refute the idea 100%, everything he's just said. And you can use AI to answer this one, because think about it. The personal income tax threshold is £12,584 annually. The vast majority of 16 and 17-year-olds don't work, and the ones that do don't exceed the personal tax allowance. So Grok says, without precise statistics for the age group, 1 to 2% seems reasonable, but it's not definitive. Yeah, so 16-year-olds don't pay tax. They don't. 99% of them are either in education full-time, in education part-time, or earning a pittance so they don't pay any tax anyway. Oh yeah, and a large amount of them are just playing games in the basement and lubing up and throwing themselves around the bedrooms quite frequently. That's all they do. They don't pay taxes. Everybody knows it. So that line is just an excuse to take the piss, obviously. And the second point I was going to make, if it wasn't obvious from the opening gag, is this one. The British government has implemented several changes in age restrictions over the last 2 decades, impacting the purchase or activity age for certain items and activities. In 2007, they raised the legal age for purchasing tobacco products. They also made it illegal to sell knives and bladed articles to anyone under the age of 18. And the minimum age for commercial gambling, including casinos, betting shops and online gambling, is 18. And if you don't remember, in November last year, the government said they're planning to raise the legal age again for buying any tobacco products with the aim of creating a smoke-free generation. And they've introduced a load of nanny state laws saying you can't be within 200 foot of a doorway or some such bollocks. As usual, trying to paint it as they're doing you a favour. We're trying to protect the most vulnerable people. Yeah, so pretty soon you'll have to be 21 to buy vapes and then 25 because they want to protect you whilst rigging the election. I don't think they're protecting anyone by ushering in a socialist utopia, because I don't think people are going to get protected when 20 million angry third world knife men are roaming the streets. The police have all been turned into little fat women in wheelchairs with purple hair. And if you get trapped in a burning building, the only person you're relying on to save you is a fireman who looks like Stephen Hawking, or a black disabled roller firefighter, lesbian. This stuff won't make you safer. Everything they do makes everything worse, including this. The one silver lining is this one though. There's been a lot of talk of Gen Z men shifting very right-wing, and it's causing a dating divide. What was assumed to be the most progressive left-leaning generation voted much more conservative than they did 4 years ago. This is mainly due to a shift towards the right in young men. But why did this progressive generation make the more conservative shift? There may be an answer that explains a subset of the young male vote, online fitness influencers. Yeah, so, I mean, that's a stretch. But maybe not. If you're a sparrow-born soy boy with no confidence or a chin, for that matter, you're going to dye your hair purple, aren't you? And be an ally, because it'll give you the chance to slip some Hypnol in the drink and then chain them to the radiator under your house. But if you're normal, right, and you've got eyeballs, and you live in Europe or the United States, and you've realised that every single left-wing policy revolves around making your life much, much worse, you're going to shift, aren't you? I refuse to believe that the average English or Spanish or Italian or Norwegian kid looks around and sees all of the social programmes vanishing because they've got 50 million recent imports to feed, clothe and house. I refuse to believe those kids are dumb enough to continue saying, of course there's unlimited resources, tax the rich. Of course we should bring in another 2 million bong-eyed pirates from Somalia and give them all of the houses. Definitely do that. And they can't put 2 and 2 together and they wonder why programs disappear. So maybe, as is often the case with shit-for-brain socialists, maybe they'll change a load of laws to try and cheat and it'll bite them up the arse. Here's hoping. All I can say is, if you do have nephews and nieces and children and young people in your life, have a word with them about politics. Because if you don't do your due diligence and they go to university and they come back, well, best case scenario, they'll go to university and come back purple-haired in a polycule with a fanny like a ripped welly, right? But worst case scenario, they end up befriending Akbari Jabari and then getting tuck above a greasy kebab shop and getting the good news off 25 blokes from a third world country. So if you don't do your due diligence as a parent and train your kids to be streetwise, bad things can happen to them. Might I suggest you have a chat with them about politics before they go to school every day? Anyway, that's just my opinion on the matter. Please let me know what you think as usual. I'm sure there's someone watching who's as thick as dehydrated whale spunk and disagrees. So have at it. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.